Hey there, 3AM Coney fans. Big welcome into this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. Russ Heltman from Sports Illustrated AllBengals is joining us on the show today, and we're going to dive in through every game of the 2020 season and do what we call a three-word game. So we're going to say three words to describe each game. It's quite funny. The first one is Crampin' Fat Randy. Gave you a little preview for it. So they're going to be like that, so you want to tune in for that. Russ and I also talk about the fact Mike Brown just blamed fans for hiring Zac Taylor. What does that mean for Cincinnati? What do they look like heading into 2021? Great show with a lot of fun conversation. Hope you enjoy it. Here it is, 3 a.m. Coney. Bengals fans, I think most of us want to go in a new direction, right? And you know, we wanted to go in a new direction 2 years ago with Marvin Lewis and 3 years ago and probably 4 years ago and probably 5 years ago, somewhere around there. We've wanted to go in a new direction for a very, very long time. And today, Mr. Mike Brown, who barely makes any public statements, decided to make another public statement, one of his few of the year, in which he said, fans wanted to go in a new direction 2 years ago. Fans wanted a new, fresh face. Fans wanted us to do this and make this higher. Well, you know what, Mike? When you talk to most fans, they do want to go in a new direction. They wanted to go in a new direction 2 years ago. In fact, they wanted to go in a new direction back in 1998. The problem is, Mike, that new direction is you, buddy. It's you. It's your ownership. It's your cheapness. It's your lack of colored seats. It's your lack of an indoor practice facility. It's the way you tuck your shirt in. It's the way you wear cheap shoes. It's the way you own this team. Yes, fans want a new face and direction, and it involves you not owning the Cincinnati Bengals. But guess what? You inherited it. You're one of the many, many trust fund babies that walk our planet, okay? So you're the owner. Whatever. We're in it. You're the owner. That's how it is. Zac Taylor's still the coach this year, but I just wanted to come off the top and say, blaming the fans for your hire, it's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard Mike Brown do, and that is saying something. Joining us on the show today, Sports Illustrated AllBengals reporter Russ Heltman. We're live on Periscope. If you're listening to this after, it'll be on Spotify, all those wonderful places. But we've got a great show today. And Russ, you know, just I get a little heated at least when you have such an unpolished public statement. When you're the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals, you barely talk to the media ever. And your first public statement after a 4-11-1 campaign and 6 wins in 2 years is blaming the fans for your hire and blaming the fans to keep that guy around.
Lukas, great to be with you, my man. It is very interesting wording that Mike Brown used on his basically one big public statement that he's going to be making this year or before heading into the season in 2021. But, a day after your second most hated division rival, the team that's beat up on you consistently over the past 3 to 4 years, sets a franchise record for yards allowed by a Bengals defense on the ground. It's not only that they got blown out and the way it looked and all that. It's just it all looks pretty bad right now. But they're hopefully going to sweep it under the table, move along, look to the offseason, and try to patch up some of these holes and keep their fingers crossed that the injury gods can help them out a little bit next year. It's been 3 to 4 straight years, basically ever since Andy Dalton's thumb was broken against the Steelers in that magical run back in 2015, that they have faced some bad luck on that side of the football coin. So once again, just it's not the wording you'd love to see, and we'll see what changes they end up making to the coaching staff. As our very own Elise Jesse of AllBengals has reported throughout last week, there will be changes made throughout the ranks, and it remains to be seen if those will be announced today, as we're talking on Monday, or in the coming days. But they are expected to be coming down hard on the staff that Zac Taylor has assembled over the past 2 years.
Yeah, the problem with that is they better be able to hire a pretty good staff and replacement, because if we go get less inexperienced guys, less guys that are less qualified for their positions, which frankly with Zac Taylor being a lame duck candidate going into the year, it's going to be hard to fill the staff. And you shared with me that graph of teams that have tried to do this in the past. And like the most successful, any team that tried to fire everybody but the coach is like 10-6. And the Falcons just tried this experiment last year. And it's just, the list you sent me was a collection of bad coaches and bad organizations, mostly having a very bad year and having to fire the coach anyway, which is probably 85% what's going to happen in this situation for the Bengals. But I think that really depends on how good is Joe Burrow next year, how much can he cover up, how much can he stay healthy to be able to cover everything up? Because I think that Zac Taylor, despite how bad he was this year, still would have found a way to get 7 or 8 wins if Joe Burrow had stayed healthy for all 16 games, although you could say it's Zac Taylor's fault that he didn't stay healthy.
And we're going to go through it with the full season here in a little bit. But yeah, as we were talking about that going through each game, it was pretty clear the improvements that this team was making against not necessarily the cream of the crop in the league, but against the sort of middle tier teams that you have to start beating before you get to that level. But the table that I sent you that you were just referencing there were teams since 1986 who retained their head coach but featured 3 new coordinators. So not necessarily the full scope of cleaning house that the Bengals are reportedly looking at as of right now, but they're making a lot of big changes to their coaching staff. Almost half of the big overall voices within that staff are going to be reportedly out. So when you look at this table, it's tough to find any consistent success with these types of situations. The only one that really stands out is the obvious Super Bowl champions back in 2007, the New York Giants, who retained Tom Coughlin but re-upped with new coaches and Kevin Gilbride, Steve Spagnuolo, and their special teams coach as well. So outside of that, you got one winning record, 8-8 season, another 8-8 season, and then sub 500 results throughout the past 33 years of trying this experiment. So it's not necessarily the same type of thing, but a massive turnover of the assistant coaching staff without replacing the head coach does not seemingly lead to a lot of success the following season. But there is the Joe Burrow effect, and he has obviously showed a lot of faith in this coaching staff, a lot of retainment of what they've been able to feed him in terms of the scheme and his ability to adapt it onto the field. They have to keep him healthy. That's the bottom line. They did not do that with the way they played offense this year, and it remains to be seen if they're going to be able to do that next year with him coming off of this massive rehab. So it doesn't make you feel great bringing back Zac Taylor unless they add some serious coaching firepower.
Which it's going to be hard to see if Zac Taylor's the one leading that effort. I mean, hell, even if Mike Brown is the one leading that effort to get qualified coaches in there. And that has to do with reputation. That has to do with how much he's willing to pay these guys, how much security he's willing to give them, how much assistance he's willing to give them. Mm-hmm. I mean, this all ties back to Mike Brown. And listen, I wasn't going to talk about Mike Brown this offseason. Then you read, I read the bullish thing. You don't need to say the word bullish after 4 wins, okay? You don't. You don't have to say it. You can still bring him back and not say the word bullish after a 38-3 loss.
Or two wins over a winning team.
And
one win over the Steelers and the Titans. But one a season isn't cutting it.
Yeah, and you should never say in a press statement that you did something because the fans wanted it, even if that is why you did it. It makes me like... it's just, it was a frustrating statement, and now the focus turns on Mike Brown because, I mean, do you want to know how the Bengals really get something done, even with Zac Taylor still as the head coach this year? Mike Brown comes out and he announces tomorrow, that they are building an indoor practice facility, and then start leaking every story you can think of to the press about how you're spending more money, even if it's not true. Lie. Right? Say, hey, we upgraded our refreshments, but really we just got new vending machines in the hallway. Hey, just start leaking these stories, start getting it out to the media, both local and national, so that it gets into the ears of coaches around the league that, hey, the Cincinnati Bengals aren't cheap anymore. hey, the Cincinnati Bengals are willing to invest in coaches, in players, in practice facilities. The Cincinnati Bengals are willing to spend. We want to win. And they did it a little bit with free agency, but Mike Brown's got to get serious about this stuff. You are a northern franchise without a practice facility that's indoors. That's a big deal. It's not even a big deal, the fact that, well, guys need to practice inside. It's better for players. It's better for playing. In fact, I think even the argument that it's better for your team to practice outside might be a viable one. I don't think it's necessarily right, but it might be a viable argument. The problem, though, is the perception of it, right? So the Patriots have an indoor practice facility, and Bill Belichick practices outside most of the time. But they have it. It exists. In case it's negative 20 and there's a blizzard or a tornado or something, it's Ohio.
Well, and the players can use it too. It's not just for practice as well. So they could go in there and get their work in as well. If they are down with practicing with the team outside, obviously you want to get those hits in the cold weather. But if you're just trying to get some extra work in and not trying to cramp up, et cetera, we don't need to get deep into the weeds. But obviously, that's something they should have added a decade ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't see it being added anytime soon, but they do have a golden opportunity, Lukas, with this upcoming offseason, looking at free agency. They're going to be one of the few teams in the league with a lot of cap space, and looking around this NFL, there's going to be maybe 10 to 15 big names coming off of rosters because they're going to be cap casualties with the COVID cap not going to rise due to the pandemic and no fans in the stands. So there's going to be a golden opportunity for them to inject veteran, new blood talent into this team, especially on the trenches, and then immediately upgrade the prospects for Zac Taylor's third season, a third season of which, this is probably the last thing I'll say on it before we get into the next segment, but who is going to come here in this lame duck season? Who wanted to come latch on to Matt Patricia last year for his third season, his disastrous finale? Like, the thing is, they have to win. If he doesn't show massive improvement, 9-7, 8-8 minimum, then there is no reason to bring him back for year 4. So,
well, there's even a chance
it's going to be very difficult to find a coaching staff to flesh out, willing to take that leap. But it is the NFL, so there are those names out there that would be willing to take that chance to keep moving up the ladder.
The only way I can imagine it is if you package a veteran who knows a bunch of guys to hire and basically helps you out, but that veteran coach gets promised to either be the replacement if Zac leaves, or at least be the interim midseason, or be guaranteed to be whatever position coach. See, but that's a lot of guarantees that Mike Brown's just simply not willing to make. He's simply not willing to do that financially.
And the thing to track, Lukas,
in principle, he's just not that type of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing to track is Mike Brown going to be making these decisions on the new coaches, or is it Zac Taylor? We're going to be able to tell very quickly on who is making these hires.
It'll probably be Zac, because I think Mike is a classic guy that sees it as the coach's staff. That's his staff. It's his responsibility. The problem is I think Zac Taylor went all the way through his contact book to hire the staff he hired. Like, who else is he going to call? He's barely been in the league. Like, so, if you got a 55-year-old, he's been in the league for a little bit. There's a few guys that he can call and ask them a favor. Like, I need some help here. I need your veteran. I know that we're going to pay you a little less and you're going to have to move, but I need your help here. Zac has nobody he can do that with. Nobody. Not a soul. In fact, don't be surprised if Adam Gase shows up on the Bengals staff if Alabama doesn't hire him. I mean, that's like the type of fear I have, Russ, is the fact that there might be a chance that Adam Gase finds his way onto the Bengals coaching staff, because that's one of the only guys Zac Taylor knows in this league.
Sorry, I had to mute myself there to pick myself up off the floor. Let's have some fun here. I'm getting depressed thinking about Adam Gase.
Dude, but I'm not crazy for saying that, am I?
Yeah, I think that's insane. What is Adam state like? What I can't even talking about Adam.
Who
Gase.
else is this
what
guy
has Adam
call?
Gase proven to be added to an NFL staff right now?
Okay,
this
so
guy
Russ,
runs 11 personnel
I want
into the ground.
I want to rewind So I want to go back in the memories with you. When you and I did a sports radio show together back at Ohio University after Marvin Lewis was fired, and we did the hey, Zac Taylor's hired, and here's some of his initial staff hirings. We did a whole segment on it. You can go back and find it if you want, anybody that's listening, on Sports Beat OU. And Russ sat there and said the same sentence he just said about Adam Gase about Jim Turner. And guess who was our offensive line coach for the past 2 years? Jim Turner was. I think Zac it doesn't have anybody in his contact book. So you have a former NFL head coach that's now available. If he doesn't go to Alabama to be the OC, I mean, Adam Gase, wide receiver coach in Cincinnati, it's possible, right? It's on the table. That's possible. So if we're willing to live with that, Bengals fans, that's all the stuff that's on the table. Before we jump to this 3-word game, though, Russ, let's if
real quick, Lucas, on Jim Turner.
Yes.
If this is his last game with the Bengals, was there a more clear and obvious failure from the jump than Jim Turner joining the Cincinnati Bengals? Like,
Achilles
bravo.
Smith.
Bravo. Claps.
Well, no, Achilles Smith was fun for a little bit.
I was like 2 for that, so I can't really comment, but I'm sure that was not a lot of fun.
I just listened to my dad's stories about it. Figure he nails
Very
it. Yeah, Jim Turner sucks. Ugh. 3-word game in a second. Before we do that, though, if you were the general manager, Russ, so like, you know, if you do any job, you should set a list of priorities for your next couple of months. Say, this is the things I want to get done. These are the goals I want to accomplish. If you're the Bengals general manager and you've got to make yourself 3 goals, 3 top goals, 3 things you must check off as the general manager in terms of things to either keep on the team, whether it be contract extensions, things to add to the team, or things to take away from the team, what would be your top 3 priorities have to get done in the 2021 offseason?
Number 1, as soon as the league year starts, is re-signing Carl Lawson. We saw what happened when Sam Hubbard went out. He's the only player on the team right now that can create pressure. Go ahead and look at PFF Cincinnati Bengals correspondent Evan McPhillips had a nice tweet out earlier breaking down the pass rush productivity of the top 5 defensive linemen, and there's a 50%, almost 100% production gap between Sam Hubbard and Carl Lawson alone in terms of pressures overall in the season. So Carl Lawson's a guy that has to be re-signed. He has to be added back to this defense. Number 2, you're extending Jesse Bates. You're rewarding him for his All-Pro-esque season. I don't know if he'll actually get named to the team after being snubbed a little bit off of the Pro Bowl voting.
A lot of it.
I just say a little bit because I don't like to take Pro Bowl voting seriously. Anyways, it's a dumb way to assess players. But anyway, Jesse Bates had a spectacular season. He needs to be rewarded for that. And number 3 is identifying the best offensive lineman on the market for this team and for this offense and signing him. Whether it's Taylor Moton, whether it's adding a Joe Thuney, where you need to identify a veteran and add them to these trenches to help solidify, gain a 3rd competent offensive lineman next to Jonah Williams, Trey Hawkins, and just make sure you're starting with a great base heading into the draft. If that's the only offensive lineman you sign, I'm still thinking they should sign 2 to 3, but at least getting 1 premier guy and just eating the money, making sure that even though you are not accustomed to making these kind of decisions with paying top tier money for these guys, you recognize the situation you're in and you know you have to keep your number 1 asset clean. And to do that, sometimes you got to pay a little more.
Yeah, I could give a rat's ass about the defense. You keep that kid healthy. I don't care if we go 6-10 because of the defense. You keep that kid healthy.
Exactly.
You keep that kid upright. You keep that kid mentally straight. You keep that kid safe. Right? It's like the Secret Service. We don't care how much money the Secret Service has to be paid. Keep the president safe. We've dealt with this assassination stuff in the past. I'd like to not deal with it again. And that's
because you can't evaluate anything else once the president's gone. The country's in shambles.
Yeah, the country becomes in shambles, and then next thing you know, it's Andrew Johnson, and he didn't think he'd get this job, and it gets gone crazy. But it's just protect them.
But yes, that's the Russ GM 3-down manifesto right there.
Yeah, my 3 would be number 1. I'd sign 3. I would try to get 3 free agent offensive linemen, a top tier, a mid tier, and a hopefully league average or just below league average. Because guess what? Just below league average still probably starts on our line. Because you need some depth, please. If you add those 3, then just draft best player available in the draft. If it happens to be a tackle, great. If it's not, then you can draft a wide receiver. But now you add 3 guys with already 3 competent guys on the roster and a couple that might sneak to competence. You let them all compete, and I think you can end up with a top 15, top 10 line that way and keep Joe Burrow relatively safe. And Joe is going to make lines better as seasons go along. And we kind of saw that a little bit at times with the Cincinnati Bengals line, but it was too talent bereft to ever overcome fully. So if you give Joe Burrow a somewhat talented line because of his decision-making and the way he changes protections in his second year, they'll improve as the year goes along, but you need a baseline line to keep him healthy. That's number 1 priority. Number 2 priority for me would be draft best player available. You just need raw talent. I don't care what position. Don't think about need or anything. You draft.
Don't stay locked into offensive line in the top 5.
Yeah, well,
unless it's Penei Sewell at 5.
Yeah, if it's best player, I don't care. If they spend money on 3 offensive linemen, then it would be like, well, do we really want to draft Penei? Yes, you do. You want to draft Penei Sewell. You want to stack that line with so much talent and so much assets that there's no way it could fail, right? That's kind of what you have to do if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. And
to that point, on number 1, their bottom 5 offensive grades, Lucas, 4 of the 5 were offensive linemen, and then Brandon out.
Can't happen.
So, of players that played 250 snaps, it's a big problem, and it has to be addressed, I think, at all levels of the offseason.
Yeah, I think that, and then best player available is the second one, and third one is build an indoor practice facility, but I know that's not going to happen. Third one, if I were a GM, and this would be top of my priority list, would be finding the guy I would hire if I have to fire Zac Taylor 4 weeks into the season. That would be one of my top 3 things. Because I think Joe Burrow's good enough that if this thing goes all the way off the rails within the first 4 to 6 games, you can still craft a decent season under an interim coach. So I'd be looking for a veteran, older guy, like a Wade Phillips, someone that's done it before, and say, hey, we're going to pay you more money or about the same as we're paying the head coach. Don't tell him, but we're going to pay you that. And then if it goes great, you're here, and maybe you get a job next year somewhere else, or maybe you stay here. And if it doesn't work out, you get to prove yourself as an interim head coach, and you get heavy consideration for the job heading into 2022. That would be my third priority. Because I think that with the way the situation has gone with Zac Taylor thus far, you don't want to be caught with your pants down having to fire the guy 5 games into next season and then making all of next season a disaster.
Doesn't it feel like Darren Simmons has that kind of role right now, though?
Yeah, but I don't know. I'd have to be in the room. I'd have to know Darren, and I don't know Darren, and he's never done it. So I'd go get somebody that's done it before. Unless
it just feels to me
I
like
knew Darren,
if I'm hiring,
Darren's great, one of those things.
If I'm hiring a veteran guy, and I'm assuming this is probably going to be a defensive coordinator or somebody on that side of the ball to eventually take over if things go south, why wouldn't I have done that anyways? Why wouldn't I have just done that and fired Taylor? That's the whole thing with me. Like, they have just put so much pressure on this season for Zac Taylor, and especially if they end up doing a full cleaning house of the staff, for him to have to evaluate the season, evaluate the team while coming up with a whole new staff on the fly and expecting it all to gel while we don't even know what the COVID protocols could be for next season, then it's just it's what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, well, those are their priorities. If we were the GM, that's how we do things, and things would probably be much better. But we're not. We're here on this podcast talking to you, and we've got a fun segment to end the show with. Russ and I, we sat down, and we decided to go through this 16-game hellscape, what it appeared to be through the back half.
Some bright spots. Juju dance.
A 4-11-1 season. Yeah, 4-11-1, which, by the way, is the second time in Bengals history they finished with that record. 2008 was the last time.
Good omen there.
Yeah, Maybe, because in 2009 they won the division, the Cardiac Cats. You remember Andre Caldwell making a lot of catches? It was Andre Caldwell, right? I got that name right.
Was that the Jerome Simpson flip year?
Yeah.
2009?
I think '09 was, yeah, '09 was a flip year. Because '09, well, didn't '09 have Lavernius Coles as well?
Yes.
What a year. Cedric Benson running wild on everybody. But we did a 3-word game while Russ double-checks the Jerome Simpson flip. We did a 3-word game, so that means we can only use 3 words to describe every game of the Cincinnati Bengals season in 2020. Russ and I went through the whole list. I wrote them all down, so I'll read them, and then Russ and I will talk about them week by week. We'll go through the season. It's our way of trying to put a little humor in what would be otherwise a disastrous recap of all 16 Cincinnati Bengals games this season. Okay.
Completely missed the Jerome Simpson. 2011.
Yeah,
2011.
11.
That was,
I figured.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Because I remember
Another playoff year.
they're playing the Cardinals. I think like John Skelton was starting at quarterback or something.
Dalton to Simpson.
Made the playoffs. All right, here we go. 2020 season. Are you ready for this misery, Russ?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, remember, it started week 1 versus the Los Angeles Chargers. They lost 16-13. And our 3 words for week 1, cramping Fat Randy. I think this one's easy, right? The cramp was the biggest thing that happened in week 1. You could say maybe the OPI early, but to me it was the cramp because it was like both legs at the same time, and I'm not even sure that the cramp actually really happened. And it was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in the sport. And honestly, I think it was the beginning of the end for Randy Bullock as Cincinnati Bengals kicker.
It was like that SpongeBob meme where the rooms just start spinning and you just can't tell what's going on, and SpongeBob's just freaking out, and then all of a sudden the game was over and they had lost.
I remember
that's what it felt like.
I remember I was sitting on the edge of my seat and watching the final drive by Joe. Because remember, Joe had not looked great all day. Like, I could tell that he was going to be fine, but he wasn't blowing the doors off anybody. He looked very much like a rookie through that first half, and the Chargers were
They kept the
pressure.
training wheels on a little bit, too.
Yeah, and he had a couple of dumb shovel pass, and he had a couple of really bad decisions where he tried to shovel it and ended in that Melvin Ingram interception. But it didn't matter because it came to that last drive, and, man, I've never been so enamored with television. Because wasn't Nance doing the game? Who was doing the game? It wasn't. It was Harlan. Kevin Harlan was doing the game. He does a great job. And he was hyping up this drive, rightfully so well. And Joe was just annihilating the Chargers right down the field. Here comes the number 1 pick in the home opener, the kid designed for clutch. And he's going to go down and win the opening game on a game-winning drive, all the way down the field, which he did, by the way. He did it. He finished the drive. Joe Burrow won the game, which I think that's the theme of this year. There's a bunch of games that Joe Burrow won that the Cincinnati Bengals lost. But I remember it was awesome, and then cramping Fat Randy, and then we lost, and then it was over. You're exactly right. All right, week 2 at Cleveland. Lost 35-30. Remember, this was the Thursday night game where Joe Burrow had almost the rookie record for pass attempts in a game. Our 3 words for this are shoulders are strong, because this is the game, Russ, we learned that Joe Burrow can carry a lot of weight, essentially. Now, should he be carrying that weight? I don't know. But can he carry the weight of an entire NFL offense against a playoff team? Yes, he can. And they ended up being really competitive on that Thursday night, 35-30.
37-61 for 316 and 3 touchdowns. Joe Burrow was lights out in his first rival game against the Cleveland Browns. Just barely faced off against Nick Chubb. So it's tough when the Browns running game, the newfound Browns running game under the Kevin Stefanski scheme, started to find life after being drubbed in week 1 against the Ravens. The defense folded like they did so many times in 2020, and Joe Burrow ended up doing it all in a loss, but showing that he can carry the weight of this team. And I believe he did set the rookie. Yeah, he was 2. No, you're right. 2 passes off a Winky for the most throws in a game by a rookie. So carrying the weight indeed.
Carrying the weight, showed he could do it, and it was really impressive. He had that great rollout throw to T. Higgins, which was on the money, just over.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of really good-looking stuff from Joe in that game. He looked good under the lights. He looked comfortable. I mean, it was the best primetime performance by a Bengals quarterback in decades, it felt like. I like that game. But whatever, they start 0-2.
And get this, Lucas, it was the exact 100th birthday of the NFL, September 17th, 1920.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Week 3, Eagles. It feels like this one was interesting. It was the tie, obviously, 23-23, which also in this game, before I give the 3 words, Joe Burrow, this is one of only 16 players in NFL history now, Joe Burrow, that was able to have over 100 passer rating while being sacked 8 or more times. And there's like 5 or 6 other Hall of Famers on that list. So it was a really impressive game by him. Oh, and he's the only rookie to do it, by the way. And it happened in week 3 of his rookie season during a pandemic. But anyway, the tie 23-23. In a year we went 4-11-1, a tie against the Philadelphia Eagles. The quote here, Russ, is this 08? Is this 08? Is this what's happening right now?
I'm sure Bengals fans are hoping it's 08 because it means the next year is going to be like 09. But Joe Burrow, it could be like 09 if he continues to string together performances like he showed in the city of brotherly love. 31 of 44, continuing to show the ability to carry this offense and getting more comfortable week by week. 312 yards and 2 touchdowns. The offensive line, like you mentioned, was the story of this game. He showed that it was going to be a long season leading up to the unfortunate losing of his talents against the Washington football team. But, oh, man, nothing like a tie. Nothing like a tie. Bengals fans know them too well.
Nothing like it. Eagles almost made the playoffs because of that tie, but they were unable to do it there at the end of the year.
Nate Sudfeld. There you go.
Week 4, Jaguars. This one, take a breath, Russ. And this one, I think we all breathed easier after they won this game against Jacksonville.
33-25. All week long, you and I were like, if they don't win this game, just burn it all down. Just set it aflame. Because for the first time, Lucas, I am going to pat myself on the back a little bit, and everybody probably should. This was the consensus worst team in the league heading into the year. It never feels like the public worst team ends up actually having the worst record, but that's how it played out. The number 1 pick going to the 1-15 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, people didn't think the Jets would be that bad. They still the headlines there for a little bit, but the Jaguars come through the back door and take that mantle. Good thing the Bengals were able to find a way to beat them. Week 5 against Baltimore. Oh, this one was rough. The 3-word game for this one is, what's a blitz? What is a blitz? Jim Turner, do you know what a blitz is? Apparently not, because you couldn't teach the guys how to pick any of them up. Zac Taylor, do you know what a blitz is? Apparently not. In fact, we knew so little about blitzes, it looked like we confused one of the smarter rookie quarterbacks ever because it looked like he didn't even know what a blitz was and how to stop it. It was an absolute disaster against Baltimore in Week 5.
First time and really the only time, I'd say, at points there against the Steelers, but a full game where Joe Burrow did not really look like he knew what was going to be coming at him. 7 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss, 15 QB hits.
He was horrible.
This was a bludgeoning.
He couldn't see it. He couldn't see it at all, man. You know, and Joe Burrow is one of those guys where he has to see it. That's his skill. His number 1 thing is he has to see it. It's like Drew Brees in accuracy, right? Mm-hmm. Like if Drew is missing some throws, low, high, he's done because he's not going to push it down the field and get some easy touchdowns where he's just got to throw it in 10 yards of space like a Herbert or an Allen or a Mahomes. Right? You know, if you're working without unbelievable natural gifts, which Joe has great natural gifts, but they're not unbelievable, you've got to have your number 1 thing going, and that's seeing it. Like Joe's thing is just seeing it. He knows what the defense is in. He knows what his guys are doing. He knows right where the ball should go, and he knows it very fast. That wasn't happening at all against Baltimore, and that's what Joe Burrow will look like if he is ever confused like that again. It's just going to be a dud. It's going to be a non-starter. If you can get that much pressure and he not see it, it was done. It was rough Week 5. Week 6, though, offense says, hey, we're still fine. We're still fine. They tee the lead. TEE, because T. Higgins, 6 catches, $125 in this game, including that first deep ball of the year, came all the way in week 6. But we know what happened then, 31-27 loss. But hey, that lead was awfully fun.
Big breakout game from T. Higgins. 6 catches, 125 yards, really stamping the approval of that second-round selection from the receiver of Clemson. Overall, oh man, it's just another one of those games in the Zac Taylor era where they couldn't finish, Lukas. And this is where you really started to think, is Joe Burrow going to be enough to overcome those kinds of short steps and shortcomings in these contests where they have to finish 21-0? Inexcusable to lose a lead like that.
Yeah, that should have been a win. I mean, just going back through here, the should have beens, like really should have beens, that weren't wins. I mean, the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Colts are 3 ones that are almost unexcusable. They all really 3 should have been wins. Mm-hmm. I thought the Bengals were the better team on the day those teams played. I thought they had better quarterback play in all 3 of those games, and I think that a competent head coach wins all 3 of those games. But that's just me. So I'd
say Rivers kind of went toe-to-toe with Burrow in that game, though. Like, that was vintage Rivers. Some of those throws he was making, I just put my hand over my hair and just laughed. That's all I could do.
I think, yeah. But, again, why was he able to have that type? It's all different types of questions. But I think that's one Bengals should have won, even if Phillip Rivers had a great day, which he did. Week 7, this is another one that's going to go in the should have won category. I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, because it's against the Cleveland Browns, and I like this one. You came up with this one. Baker, Burrow, yes. Is this a rivalry for the next 10 years? I think so, less than you do. You like Baker more than me, but Baker clearly proved himself as, at the very least, a very quality NFL starter with 5 touchdowns, no interceptions in that 37-34 win.
8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions combined, over 700 passing yards between the dueling quarterbacks here. This was honestly the most fun I had watching a Bengals game this year with Joe Burrow in it. The Steelers game was a joy to watch as well on Monday night. But these 2 guys battling it out, even though the Bengals ended up losing on the insane Donovan Peoples-Jones cover the rookie touchdown in the final seconds. It was a lot of fun watching these 2 guys go at it, and it gave you a lot of hope that this could be the premier rivalry, not only in the AFC North, but maybe in the entire NFL over the next 10 years if these guys play like this when it comes down to the nitty-gritty.
Well, and I think this was also the first game, and I think that the result the following week kind of proved that. This was the first game that, I don't know, that I think we all got to see it. I think that anybody in Bengaldom that had any doubts about Joe Burrow heading into Week 7. So in Week 6, he slowed down late, threw an interception that lost them the game, right? In Week 5, he gets absolutely annihilated by a good team. He looked like he was lost. So what? He beat the Jaguars. Couldn't finish against the Eagles. Yeah, he looked good against Cleveland and looked pretty bad against the Chargers. So there were still some Bengals fans who didn't like the pick necessarily. There aren't many, but there were still some. And some all around who were like, okay, this kid doesn't look too clutch. Doesn't look like he can bounce back. Yeah, that drive against the Chargers was good. It's exciting, but is it really all coming together? And then this 2-week stretch with this loss against the Browns, it should have been a win. Joe Burrow was perfect in that game. Absolutely perfect. You couldn't have asked a quarterback to play any better under their circumstances. And again, this was a playoff team. This Bengals team under Joe Burrow should have beat the Colts, Browns, Titans back to back to back. Joe Burrow played
all 3 playoff teams.
Joe Burrow played well enough to win those games back to back to back, and all 3 of those teams were playoff teams. All 3 of them were playoff teams. So this is the best stretch of the season for the Bengals, because then Week 8, Titans, we get the 3 words, bye week bliss, where Joe's awesome, the team's awesome, it all clicks together, and Zac Taylor wins the game, what seems like the only way he knows how, by double digits.
There you go. 31-20 victory for the Bengals. Clinical performance from Burrow, 249, 2 touchdowns. Kind of showed in this game how effective Gio Bernard could be in this offense next to Joe Burrow. We know his pass blocking chops. We know his ability out of the backfield, but spreading things out really allows him to be that shifty back within the tackles, had 15 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown, and started to make me think long and hard about my evaluation of this Joe Mixon deal. Where does he stand within this offense? What is he going to look like coming back next year? How are they going to make sure he is worth that money that they're paying him? That's the kind of gauge I got out of this game, because it showed that with Joe Burrow, you can put a lot of different running backs around him. As long as they can pass block, you're going to be able to have success.
No doubt about it, but money's paid. So, Week 10, Steelers crash to earth. This was a quick crash to earth. We hyped ourselves up over the bye week like we knew we would, and the Steelers silenced it quickly. We don't really need to talk about that one much. See, now the season was really fun up to this point. And the three-word game is going to follow the season, ladies and gentlemen, because Week 11 is about the last fun one we have, and then it's just a quick spiral out of control. Because Week 11, Washington, after the crash to earth, was the burn from earth, it felt like. In Week 11, Washington, this is the quote. I came up for this one, Russ. And this one needs a little different emphasis. I don't want to just say it normal. This is the quote for Week 11, the three-word quote. They hired Turner? Jim Turner? Turner. That feels like dangerous for whoever's going to be back there in the backfield now. Oh, it is dangerous. It's a crime. They hired Turner? I'm so glad he's gone. It was the worst part of the Bengals organization, and that is saying something. Jim Turner's my least favorite Cincinnati Bengal anything. Coach, player, owner, I don't care. Name it. Fan. Worst thing ever in a Bengals stripe ever that's ever been in my life is Jim Turner. So his absence will be very, 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 very nice for me and my soul, Russ.
Fittingly and kind of just stabbingly, ironically, no sacks taken by Joe Burrow in this game. Just a lot of ligaments taken away from his knee, sadly, as he tore multiple pieces of his knee and ended his season promptly in a 20-9 loss to the Washington football team. His replacement, Ryan Finley, Lukas, came in and went 3 of 10, was sacked 4 times, and threw an interception. Bengals fans quickly understood the season was over from that point on, playing for a draft pick, and maybe the remnants of this developing carcass could show you something. But like the way the team responded after Joe Burrow went down was the response of the entire fan base. I'm getting sad now just talking about it. I was having so much fun up until this point, and here we are.
Yeah, man. Oh, well, then the next 3 weeks, we're running towards the end of the show here, so we'll have to run through them. Week 12, sleeping off Thanksgiving, because nobody watched that game. Come on, admit it.
I did. I watched it.
Oh, yeah, you have to write about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it after, as in skipped through as much as possible while still seeing it to be able to talk about it.
I laughed a lot more than I thought. A lot more than I thought it would.
Week 13, Dolphins. Tyler Boyd, cool. That's our 3 words there. It's the only good thing that happened then.
72-yard touchdown. Longest touchdown of the year.
Week 14, good for Andy. That's the only thought I had after this game. I really had zero care at all that they lost 30-7. But good for Andy. I'm glad he got a win. I'm glad that he got a little respect there at the end of the year. I think it's good for him. Great for him that he ended up playing for the Cowboys just a little bit and had a little bit of success. It's going to help his legacy as time moves on. I think Andy Dalton's going to be remembered very, very fondly in NFL circles. Week 15, Steelers. We added a word for this because honestly, outside of Joe Burrow existing, this was the whole reason for the 2020 season existing, was this Week 15 Monday night win. We added a word for it, and it's juju on that turf.
He's still laying on it.
Juju on that turf.
A piece of it's still in that turf.
Ooh, man. Oh, I found this picture, Russ. I was going through my old pictures just for some reason. I was looking for something about my grandpa. I had it in a picture box. I took a picture. It was buried in my phone. I was looking through old pictures, and I found a picture I had saved all the way back in 2017, Russ. I had found a picture from all the way back in 2017. I remember I saved it. It was a friend of mine that's a Steelers fan, and his entire family bought Karma shirts where Juju Smith-Schuster is standing over Vontaze Burfict. And it just says karma. And I didn't say anything. I just took a picture of the Instagram post. I said, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to wait till the next time the Bengals beat the Steelers. Then I'll say something. And so I forgot about it because it was 3 whole years till it happened. So I found the picture. I sent it to him, and I said, oh, by the way, I forgot that I was going to send this to you whenever the Bengals beat the Steelers. So take that.
I remember now.
I remember now.
I love it.
But there was Juju on that turf. And then real quick to end, Week 16, is Allen good? The answer is no, he's not. Week 17 is burn the tape. I don't think we should even ever – I don't think they should do film study on Week 17.
Franchise record allowed.
404. That's fun.
Real quick, though, shout out Ryan Finley. The best gift of 2019 was the fact that the Bengals, for their fans, could get Joe Burrow. And the best gift for their fans of 2020 was beating the Steelers.
Yes.
2 integral parts of those things was Ryan Finley. So he'll go down in Bengals fan lore for a long time. Maybe not a Ring of Honor member if they ever put that in, but he is a guy that Bengals fans will cherish forever.
Let me ask you this before we leave here. End of the show. It's been a really fun Coney. We've tried to be laid back with it because, it's that type of season. It's hard to get serious about anything. But here at the end of
2021. You got to be happy.
Yeah. Here at the end of the show, this is swimming in my head, and I don't know if I'm crazy, and I don't know if I want to, he's still got to rehab. He's still got to make it through all that. Still a lot of work to do, but this is something that keeps popping in my head. I see it in dreams. I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm sweating a little bit because I'm having premonitions about it. I feel it coming. And maybe this is eternal optimism, and maybe this is silly, and maybe this is all going to bite me in the ass come week 3. But you know what? I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it right now. I think that outside of the common candidates, so Patrick Mahomes, toss in Lamar, sure, Josh Allen, we'll take out Aaron Rodgers in case he gets older next year. But outside of those guys, the number 1 MVP candidate in my mind in 2021 is Joe Burrow. Why? I think he's an incredible player, 1. 2, it's going to be his second season. So his number 1 thing is getting sharp mentally. He had the time. He's going to have the time in the offseason. Learn more systems, learn more defenses, become a better quarterback. And 3, this is more of a looking at how they vote on the award, is he's going to be the best story of 2021. Because I think he's going to be back by a preseason game. We're going to be having arguments that he shouldn't be playing week 3 of the preseason. No. Right? And then he'll be ready week 1. It'll be, wow, what an amazing recovery. We remember the Adrian Peterson story. It's unbelievable. He's playing. Oh, my God, he's playing so good. Oh, wow, the Bengals aren't terrible anymore. Let's give him the MVP. And I think that might happen in 2021. But I might be crazy, too. I just think that Joe Burrow's in for a very, 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 very good year, Russ.
I love the optimism. I would be shocked if it happened, but I love the optimism, Lucas.
Would you
in
be
the first
shocked?
week of 2021, you gotta love the optimism.
Would you be shocked if in week 8 he were in an MVP candidates article? That's it.
I would be shocked if he won. I wouldn't be shocked if he played at that level. I think because, looking at the award, you have to be almost a top 2 seed to win it, and I just don't see the Bengals being that this year. But I am in full agreement that Joe Burrow will come back a better, stronger player because of this. Not necessarily first off for the first 8 weeks, but overall Joe Burrow will be just fine. He'll be the same. He'll be on the same trajectory we all thought he'd be on heading into that Washington game in the back half of the season.
There's a world, though, that a 10-6 quarterback could get it. If it's a 10-6 quarterback for the Bengals off an ACL and his numbers
just carrying everything.
Yeah, let's say the Bengals have the 24th ranked defense. They've blown a bunch of games, but they're still 10-6, and Joe's got almost 40 touchdowns, barely any interceptions. He's just playing incredible every week. And,
he's led lead gaining drives in 2 of the 3 losses or something.
Yeah, it's just this team, if this team had even a top 15 defense, they'd be one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. And that's kind of the path to winning the MVP, especially with how disrespected the Bengals organization is. It might be to spite the Bengals vote. You know what I mean? where they're 10-6 and they're like, man, not only is he carrying what we thought was a really bad roster and what we think is actually a pretty bad team, he's also carrying the worst owner in the sport. He's also carrying, well, Dan Snyder's out there, but he's also carrying just the Cincinnati Bengals, that entire thing. So maybe he gets a little help there. But then again, the national media never wants to vote for the Bengals for anything a la Jesse Bates. So it's what we'll give. We will see. I want to wish good luck to all the Cleveland Browns fans this weekend. Here's my piece of advice. Shut up right now. Trust me, we've been there. 05, 09, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. This is the week to be quiet. Next week is the week to talk if you win. This is the week to be quiet. It's only pain coming your way if you're going to talk, especially to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, because Browns fans don't think about this, but Steelers players will read you if you tweet at them, and you will piss them off. And they don't like you very much. And they just rested, and you're dancing on their field, and you're ticking people off on TikTok. And what's crazy is it's not even Baker this time. Baker actually had really good quotes after the game. It's the rest of the Browns. And if you think you're the Cleveland, it's just, you haven't won a playoff game since 95 or whatever, since Bill Belichick was there. So I don't know why. I get why the celebrations have happened, but you've celebrated, you've got to start being quiet now, or it's going to be rough, because Steelers fans are going to shove it so far down your throat if they beat you on Sunday that you'll never be able to live it down. Ever be able to live it down. And I know, Russ and I, you and I have been there, right?
Yep, and fitting way to end the 3 Coney. Lukas, not to leave you hanging right there, but breaking news right here. Bengals center Trey Hawkins suffers torn ACL against the Ravens. So a little cherry on top of Sunday's disastrous performance. He is questionable to be ready for the start of the season.
He won't be ready.
Offensive line, a massive need, and the need just grew with the loss of Trey Hawkins for all of the 2021 offseason.
Well, now you got to just pay 3 guys, I think, guaranteed. You got to pay him. You got to spend some money, Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. A lot of fun, though, Russ. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast, buddy.
Been a lot of fun, Lukas. 2020 season in the books. Wipe it clean on to 2021. Can't wait to cover the offseason for AllBengals. Going to have a lot of content coming out, everybody. We'll be doing shows here on the 3 a.m. Coney. It's going to be a lot of fun to attack. So many avenues to go down, and we will cover them all.
Yeah, and Russ and I will be there through it all, and then Matt and I will be there through it all on Wednesdays. And thank you so much for listening, especially everybody on Periscope. Give this a like, follow, share, subscribe. We appreciate it. For Russ Heltman from AllBengals, I'm Lukas Moore from the 3 a.m. Coney. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.